Hello again, this is Dobby's Lone Depot on YouTube, and this is going to be a slightly different video this time. A bit of a history lesson for you. The first video was more or less an introduction to the layout, looking at the layout itself, and we're not going to be doing that so much here, but this is one I've been looking forward to doing for a while. So this is a map of Glasgow. Now Google's going to be one of our points of reference in this video. Also, now I'm a railway author as well, and this is one of the 3 books that I have published right now. This is The Railways of Glasgow, which was released in 2014. It's available, published by the History Press in various bookshops, and it's actually, I've had to go back to the book on numerous occasions to do a bit of research for this model. Now, what's coming up then, we're going to have a look at the real location where the layout is based, and just the area around that. Even with some archive photos, we're actually going to visit the place itself, which I'm sure you can't wait for. And yeah, so let's get started looking at a map of Glasgow. Now, once again, a brief summary of the layout. It's a double low gauge layout, and what I was explaining in the first video was it's modelling part of a locomotive depot, just a small part of it, not a whole depot, and a couple of sidings from an adjacent marshalling yard as well. So it's based largely around illusion. It's just part of what might have been a depot. There was various locomotive depots in Scotland, a couple around Glasgow, notably Eastfield, which we'll have a look at, and a few marshalling yards. So the era that we're modelling is mostly the late 1980s period, which I've always been really interested in, which was when there was still locomotive-hauled passenger trains as opposed to multiple units which operate them these days. And there was a lot of freight traffic, and it was the British Rail era, and a lot of that was what we call Speedlink. Speedlink was the name that British Rail gave to part of their rail freight subdivision for what you call wagon load freight traffic, which is mixed freights which were divided at various marshalling yards, and with short rakes of wagons going to all sorts of destinations. So small train loads which weren't particularly economical, as opposed to bulk loads, which is like, say, a 24 wagon oil train. A bit of that as well, but the late 1980s was an era where there was a lot of the Speedlink freights running. Now, I'm hopefully improving a bit at all this video stuff and becoming a bit more fluid. It's going to take a while, but I'll do my best. So back to this map of Glasgow. So we'd be looking mainly in the north side, just north of the city centre. This would be the city centre around here. This is kind of our area up here. And let me just zoom in a little bit on this. There's Glasgow Central, the River Clyde, so we're right in the middle of the city. And over here is Queen Street Station. There you go, Glasgow Queen Street. And we are up here. But right now I'm talking to you down this way. Some model railways are a completely fictitious location. Some model railways are an exact location. Even, I think I've seen an exact model of Queen Street Station before, but mine's somewhere in between, so it's not an exact real station or real shed or anything, but it's set in a rough area, so it's it's somewhere in between. And so this is a map of the north side, all the railways in the north side of Glasgow, which are featured in my Railways of Glasgow book. Glasgow Queen Street Station, coming north, this is the main lines. Edinburgh and Perth up that way. Cumbernauld, slightly further north on this line as well. Now, Glasgow Queen Street is one of the 2 remaining large terminus stations in Glasgow. There was formerly 4. There was another one called Buchanan Street, which is shown there. the dotted line shows a closed line. And there was also Centenich Station, which was a slightly larger one, which is on the south side, which is now closed as well. They both closed around the same time. Buchanan Street was 1965, Queen Street I think was 1966 officially. Now, of course, before the days of British Rail, these lines were completely independent companies until the 1923 grouping. There was the North British Railway and the Caledonian Railway being the main companies working out the north side of Glasgow. And the North British eventually became part of the LNER, the Caledonian became part of the LMS. Now what we have here is lines which were operated by both. The LNER operated the main line out of Queen Street terminus and services to Edinburgh, Perth, etc. Edinburgh, the West Highland line to Fort William. The LMS, they operated out of Buchanan Street station, so Buchanan Street LMS, Queen Street LNER. Buchanan Street, there was trains, for example, Glasgow to Aberdeen via Forfar and Glasgow to Oban, and they also, the two principal routes out the north side of the city were this and this. Now the reason I picked this particular location was, if you look at it, there's so many connections to various parts of the city. Now our would-be depot would be around here, so it would have a connection onto these two triangles of lines coming out of Glasgow Queen Street. So we have the LMS main line out. Now of course the LMS and the LNER would nationalise, they would join together in 1948 and all become British Rail. But up until then, you know, there were two fiercely competitive companies. The LMS had connections from their big terminus at Buchanan Street to the north. If you look at this triangle here, so the trains out to the north would go via Gartcosh Steps and Cumbernauld. They would go north to take the railway to reach Stirling and Perth, onwards to Inverness, which is operated by the LMS, Aberdeen via Forfar, and the Callander and Oban route. And the LNER coming out of Queen Street had a completely separate main line, which also went to Stirling and Perth, but their principal route, as well as northwards to Dundee, was east to Edinburgh Waverley. Now the LNER also had this line which linked up to the Glasgow low-level system in the west end of the city, but further west, and this was actually also the West Highland line, LNER operated. So two companies, a big network of lines. Now the idea is that our depot was initially a smaller depot opened by the LNER, which latterly was expanded into a larger diesel depot under BR, and it basically joined the line out of Queen Street around here, which is what we call the Cowlairs Incline. Now it was a real line, there was a real yard here, which I'll get into. So there was a mystery line that I didn't in fact feature in this map. It was such a minor one, it closed before the era, pretty much before the era of the book I wrote. So, but there was a very short branch line to a place called Port Dundas, which joined the Edinburgh and Glasgow main line on the Cowlairs Incline here, and it served a great big power station, Pinkston Power Station, which shut in the late 1970s. It was a goods only line. It was built to serve Craighall goods. I think it was otherwise known as Port Dundas goods station. And so it was a short branch line, I suppose. There was also connections onto the Forth and Clyde Canal. There was some lines along the quayside, and you'll see later there's still one remnant of that still there. But this line, it actually closed to most goods traffic in the mid-1960s. The connections to Port Dundas and to Pinkston Power Station were essentially removed, but there was still a short spur that came off the main line here. It served a coal merchants near Cowlairs, And so that survived, I think, till about the early 1980s. So my idea was that, especially looking at it today, it's this great open space where you think there could so easily be a railway yard there, and it just seemed to me like just to be the perfect location, quite a dramatic location. You'll see when I take you there later on. There's some real amazing sights there. So it joined our yard, is essentially part of this branch line, but we'll imagine a large marshalling yard was developed maybe around the wartime or just after nationalisation, and that essentially took over from the branch line. Rather than being a line with something at the end of it, it was essentially just one. It would essentially be one big yard with a locomotive depot at the end of it. So locomotives, I'd imagine diesel locomotives would access the depot by running through the large Port Dundas yard. So that's what the names I've given: Port Dundas Marshalling Yard and Dobbies Loan Depot. So around here, our line would join the main line. You'll see there's two big triangles here, and I've got a zoomed in bit of the two triangles. It used to just be one triangle. This chord was built in the late 1980s, early 1990s. So that's today's Cowlairs Signalling Centre, Eastfield Depot. So there'll be connections west for us out towards the West Highland line and the Glasgow low level system, north and east to Edinburgh, Stirling, Perth, Inverness, and out towards Cumbernauld that way via the LMS route, and even to the south, because if you look at the Monklands Triangle near Coat Bridge, this is a regular used connection today to the West Coast Main Line in Motherwell, and then south to Carlisle. So this location would allow for goods traffic to all corners of the country, north, south, east and west essentially. And so we'll imagine it was property of the North British Rail, became the LNER, subsequently British Railways. We'll imagine at some point also there was a connection onto the LMS route also round about where Springburn Works is, and Springburn Works is still there today, and we'll say that was maybe added during the war or something, because there was like I said, these odd wee lines around the power station and the docks, which actually, and one or two of them actually did connect with the LMS route. So imagine there's a connection basically north and east as well, and this would, I just thought this would allow for such a range of traffic. We don't have to do all this at all, like I said before. It'd be easy just to have a model rail who would just run where we like, but I thought it'd be nice to add a bit of history and local flavour to it. This is a shot of Glasgow Queen Street station post refurbishment. It's currently undergoing a refurbishment, and it was electrified in 2016. It's now getting extended. There's a lot of work going on, and I'll show you a couple of older shots of Queen Street, because a lot of the traffic we'll see in our depot is centred around the trains working out of Queen Street. And this, I think, is 1988. This is a photo taken by my dad, who liked visiting Queen Street station. And this will give an idea of the sort of traffic. This would be a Fort William or Oban train arriving here, and I think that will be an Edinburgh Aberdeen train with the 47 there to the right. And so this is the famous Cowlairs Tunnel, and a heavy gradient up the hill through Springburn brought us up Cowlairs Bank towards where Eastfield Depot was. Now Eastfield was the main depot which actually existed in real life, which is a real one, not a fictitious one like ours. We all imagine our depot is essentially a subshed of Eastfield. Eastfield Depot was notoriously cramped right up till it closed in 1992. So imagine part of the reason for our locomotive shed existing is a sort of overflow for Eastfield. But we'll consider Dobbies Loan Depot more of a a freight locomotive depot, so it's for the stabling and maintenance of locos working local freight services. But we'll imagine also it was used as a sort of overflow for Eastfield for passenger locos such as these two. So there was a lot of arrivals and departures from the busy Queen Street station in the 80s, the same as it is today. There was a lot back then, because it was locomotive hauled, there was a lot of empty coaching stock movements up to Cowler's carriage sidings, and light engine movements to and from the engine shed at Eastfield also. So back to the map, and I thought, we can imagine quite an interesting range of traffic. So number one, a few Speedlink freight workings from the West Highland line, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, even freights from the south. There could be transfer freight workings or trip workings, say from like Moss End Yard down near Motherwell to Port Dundas. There could be local ballast trips. On the passenger side of things, we'll imagine that we had a few carriage sidings in the yard also. The real carriage sidings were here at Cowler's, so we'll imagine a few like empty coaching stock transfers, even some empty coaches from Queen Street coming up the Cowler's bank and reversing. And I also thought it might be a cool idea to pretend there was maybe a wheel lathe as well. There's a few locations in Scotland where there's a wheel lathe, basically so that crews can turn the tyres of locomotives and coaches because all the tyres that need to be replaced every so often. I thought that could allow for a few interesting things. And on the passenger side of things, well, imagine a lot of light engine movements either from Queen Street Station or from Eastfield Depot. Now that if you look at the zoomed in map, so that's Eastfield Depot. Our line would be just south, round about here. So there'd be a lot of just kind of short runs between Eastfield and Port Dundas, and Cowler's carriage sidings in Port Dundas. Cowler's carriage sidings was there. So all sorts of things. Model railways, they can be wherever you want them to be. So there's a lot of possibilities. That's what kind of attracted me to this. And also another thing, I thought Springburn Works was near here, so there could be a few locomotives, heading to the works or just come back from the works that have just been repainted or repaired. Even engines coming from south of the border. I think that's all. What I was going to talk about next was just where were the real life depots and yards now. And I think the only two proper diesel depots around Glasgow were Eastfield, and then further south was Motherwell. Motherwell actually it's technically in Lanarkshire now. Glasgow's Eastfield was the only diesel depot really. So we'll imagine there was another depot which is called Dobby's Loan, which is a slightly smaller one, a subshed of Eastfield. And in terms of goods yards, there was Cadder Yard up here near Bishop Briggs, but that closed in I think the late 1970s, early 80s. There was the Coke Bridge Freightliner terminal. Further south was Moss End Marshalling Yard near our Motherwell, so it's still open. But there's a couple of nearby ones which we'll imagine might have closed and our yard might have replaced. There was Sight Hill Yard, which was connected to the Cali route, the LMS route out of Buchanan Street. And further south out of the picture here was High Street Goods Yard and College Goods Yards, which were in the Glasgow low level system pretty much. Yeah, that was the main kind of goods yards by the time of the BR era. Now here's the 3D map. It's a really fascinating area, this, in the north side of the city for rails, or at least it was when the line out of Buchanan Street was there. This line here this is Cowler's Bank coming out, this is Cowler's Tunnel coming out of Queen Street heading north. Now I've just checked a few things and I've found out it was the branch which we're talking about, which ours is earlier it's based on, it was the Port Dundas East branch, which was served by the North British and subsequently the LNER Railway. And Yeah, I just checked. It closed to goods traffic essentially in 1969, although I think a short stub of it was left to serve some coal merchants round about this area. But it used to essentially curve from about here round to about there, and it served this Craighall Road here, this long road that goes down like that. That's Craighall Road. I think it ran to about there. There's a few sidings about this area. Now today, next to, this is the area I really like, next to the canal. I used to live near here, and I had a few walks, and it was an area that just always really fascinated me. I thought it's one of these areas, wouldn't it be cool if there was a railway there? And you see now there's a lot of wasteland. We'll imagine this wasteland is where a big marshalling yard was developed, and at the very end of it, where it comes to a dead end, Dobby's Lone Depot. So the canal, obviously this black line here, we'll zoom in a little bit. So this was Pinkston Power Station here. So down by the canal there was various connecting lines, and they seem to run onto this little island here as well. Other really interesting aspects about this area in terms of railway were the real life branch. It joined the main line out of Queen Street, where it was in a real gradient. So, and that's just before the top of the Cowlairs Bank. And also, although it's not there now, it was quite interesting how the line out of Buchanan Street used to kind of cut across the line out of Queen Street. Round about here, I think there was like a sort of double tunnel, one over the other, and they obviously had to be built around this canal back in the day. So this is the Glasgow extension of the Forth and Clyde Canal, or the Port Dundas branch as it's known. Now Buchanan Street station. So Buchanan Street, the line at Buchanan Street was run, I think, roughly sort of diagonally like that. And if we go further towards the city centre, so this is the Cowcaddens area, we'll show you where Buchanan Street station was. Hold on. Buchanan Street was round about here, which is now Caledonian University. And so cutting up like that, and there's a tunnel still there to this day, round about there where these student halls residents are, where I used to stay. This road here is Dobby's Lone itself, which is an A road, and it was carried on a road bridge over the railway out of Buchanan Street, which is well round about there, I think. You can kind of just see remnants of that. Over to the east town head. These flats are part of Springburn. So let's go down there and have a look for ourselves. Now I'm just going to show you the real thing. So this is near the real place. This is where the branch line from Port Dundas joined the main line at Queen Street. The overhead wires you can see here are part of the now electrified line at Queen Street. Hopefully we'll see a train passing soon. So this is now a road. I think this was maybe built in the 1970s. This road largely follows the track bed of the Port Dundas branch. That'll be an Edinburgh train there heading downhill into Queen Street down the Cowlairs incline. So I'm pretty sure this is round about the spot of the old junction, and I'm pretty sure that this road here, Kethwick Hill Road, follows the course of much of the track bed, which is now completely built over, but you'll see in a minute there is one remnant nearby. And here's a remnant of the old line. This seems to be the base of some bridge, an overbridge by the looks of things that went over the main road here. This looks to be virtually the only trace of the railway around here. Like I say, it's now a big industrial estate. But I think it largely followed this road here. And here we are, this is the Forth and Clyde Canal, and this is Port Dundas. This is about half a mile away from where we are. See, there's a water skier here. This is Pinkston Water Sports, which is now based on the canal. Now take a look at this, more proof there was a railway here. This is the old swing bridge from the line that used to circle around Pinkston Power Station. It's still there and it's still got rails on it. Seems to be used by Pinkston Water Sports. So there was a series of railways around the canal here, around the docks, for shipments to be loaded on and off the canal boats. And this is pretty much the site of our yard. This would be Port Dundas Marshalling Yard, well, imagine. This used to be, until recent years, there was, I think there was a brewery here, there was a lot of old buildings. It's now been totally redeveloped, I'm not quite sure into what, but you can see quite a large expansive open wasteland that's now getting worked on. You can see diggers in the distance. So this is us. It's good to put a bit of context to the layout, and hopefully this will help breathe a bit of life into it. This is typical Glasgow weather. Listen to that wind. And you can see how dark it is. This is mid-November. Now pay close attention to the main back scene in the layout, and you'll see that it's taken from this. It's actually hard to tell now, but I think since I took the photo for the background, part of the Breedon Aggregates quarry or whatever it is has been taken down. And there's now a lot of port cabins that were in there before, so there's a lot of work getting done here very quickly. Look at the advert here, there's a website, you can find out about it. Now how's this for a view of Glasgow? So if you look towards the back of the layout where the depot buildings are, this is the scene we've depicted in the layout. This is the canal again. This is just a little bit further along from what I showed you a minute ago. There's Cineworld, I think the tallest cinema in Europe. That's just looking towards Glasgow city centre. So I would imagine this is the road. The railway would be beyond the fence, just up there, come to a dead end round about there. You'll see that building in the layout as well, that's Spears Wharf. Sort of warehouses next to the canal, you'll see them. So there's some pretty amazing landmarks. You can see from here, look at the motorways, that's the M8 it basically runs between Greenock and Edinburgh through Glasgow city centre. And that's looking towards the Cowcaddens area. Glasgow Buchanan Street terminus was round about where that big Nissan car garage is there next to Cineworld, and it would have been heading, tunnelling under the ground towards us. But wait for this lorry to pass. And towards that direction is also the present day Glasgow Queen Street. And in that direction is Springburn, where we still have Springburn Works, St Rollocks Railway Shed, and other, famous railway places. So that's looking towards the Cowlairs Bank, and you can see once again the distant flats from Charles Street and Royston Hill Church Spire, which are also featured on the layout. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. The railway to Port Dundas, it's long forgotten. It's not a very well known line, but this is just a story of what might have been. And I'm just going to leave you with some shots of trains at Queen Street in the Eastfield era in the good old 1980s BR Blue era. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
The next train to depart from platform 6 will be the 12:08 local service to Amberley. Cornwall, Semaphores, Ridgefarm, Dunkley, Perth, Dunkells, the Rocky, Wiltshire, Lucy, Amberley, and Amberley. This train is formed of 3 coaches. Platform 6, volume 12, only, Tokyo service to Amberley. The next change is platform platform 4, volume 12, 15, Tokyo service to Edinburgh. Cornwall, Falkirk High, Highland, Linlithgow, Haymarket and Edinburgh. This train is built on 7 coaches. Platform 4, volume 12, 15, Tokyo service to Edinburgh.